If you need further clarity on any specifics of the disclaimer, please write to us at zoominwithrd@gmail.com.
ये ट्रम्प पागल हो गया है। कभी इसको कनाडा चाहिए, कभी इसको ग्रीनलैंड चाहिए, अब उसको पनामा कैनाल भी चाहिए, गाजा भी चाहिए। हाउ कैन ट्रम्प रिवोक बर्थराइट सिटीजनशिप? दिस इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द यूएस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। साहब, अफगानिस्तान ने आपका क्या बिगाड़ा था? आपने उनका एड ले लिया। बात में अगर तय है, सीएमसी तो गया, चाइना, मैक्सिको, कनाडा, ये इन ड्रग कार्टल्स के लिए ना यमराज बन के उतरा है। Trump is back, and he's back with a vengeance. This time, we just don't have a politician, we have a reformer who is willing to challenge the US liberal mindset towards the rest of the world. ऐसा लग रहा है कि ट्रम्प क्रिस गेल की तरह पहले ही बॉल से लंबे लंबे छक्के मार रहा है। Day 1 in office, he signed 35 executive orders, out of which he revoked 76 executive orders which was signed by the Biden government. This is the highest number of executive orders signed by any US president in the United States of America in his first day in office. Why MAGA is so important? Time to find out. नमस्कार viewers, Zoom in में आपका स्वागत है। मेरा नाम है राहुल दास और आज हम चर्चा करेंगे ट्रम्प के एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑर्डर्स पे और उसके जियोपॉलिटिकल ग्लोबल एम्बिशंस पर। लेट्स सी इफ ट्रम्प कैन रिक्रिएट अ मैजिक एंड मेक अमेरिका ग्रेट अगेन। मिलते हैं ट्रम्प के स्पीच के बाद। स्टे अलोंग। तो दोस्तों, अब हम सीधे चलते हैं कैपिटल हिल, वॉशिंगटन, यूएसए।
Today I will sign a series of historic executive orders. I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. The orders I sign today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. So declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. Changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
Welcome back, viewers. I hope you heard what Trump said, and we also have a fair view of what his aspirations are, what he wants to achieve. So now let's see that whatever executive orders he has signed and whatever his aspirations are, whether that kind of leads him to make America great again. So we'll move directly to this slideshow. Okay, now the first order that he signed is he has directed federal agencies to kind of make policies to combat consumer inflation. यहाँ पे this is a chart which talks about the US inflation for the last 8 years, which is a split between Trump ka era and Biden ka era. Now the Federal Reserve inflation target has been 2%, So if the country has an inflation rate of 2% and less, then it's a good job done. Now if we see for Trump, on an average for 4 years, Trump has been at an average of 1.9%. Okay, versus to that Biden has been at a 5%, and none of the years Biden have been able to keep the country inflation rate below a 2%, versus to that Trump has been successfully been doing it in 2019 and 2020. 2017 and 2018 he marginally lost out of it, but still he has done pretty much a good job in comparison to Biden. यहाँ तक कि the worst year of Trump, which is 2018, where he was at a 2.4%, it is still far better than the best year of Biden, which is at a 3.2%. So clearly out here Trump is a clear winner as compared to Biden. Now henceforth he sees that inflation is a problem और उस पे काम होना चाहिए, and that's why he has directed the federal agencies to come up with policies to combat consumer inflation. Okay, moving on. He's saying that effective 1st of Feb 2025, he's going to impose 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico and 10% on China. Okay. Now, दोस्तों पहले ये समझते हैं कि टैरिफ क्यों लगता है और टैरिफ का ओवरऑल मैकेनिज्म है क्या. Now this is a 2023 US exports versus imports chart which says that out of $3,827 billion of imports, US has been doing $3,054 billion of export, and there is a trade deficit of $773, meaning US import ज़्यादा कर रहा है, export कम कर रहा है, और $773 billion का उसका जो है ट्रेड डेफिसिट है. अब अगर इस नंबर को न्यूट्रलाइज करना है, then one of the ways is that you put in 20% tariff on your imports, then you would be able to generate this $773 billion, which will kind of neutralize this gap. Okay, so that's one reason why any country would put in tariffs. Okay, now is America being unfair to the world? The answer is no. Why? Now this is a chart which talks about all the countries who puts in tariff. Okay, now the highest is Brazil at an 8.6%, and then it's United States at a 7.5%, and third is India at a 5.8%. so this is an average number at a country level who adds tariff in all its imports. Okay, now the question is why Mexico, China and Canada. वैसे तो इसके कई सारे और reasons भी है, but you know, from a pure play economy standpoint, Mexico, China and Canada all put together for 2024, it accounted to 42% of total US imports, meaning $1.2 trillion का इनका trade रहा है US के साथ. Okay, which is the biggest chunk. So now if he puts in tariff on this particular chunk, he would be able to generate more revenue for his country. So that's reason number one. Also, there are other reasons to it which we will discover in the upcoming slides, but one more reason why he is putting tariff on these countries is so Trump is pretty much, you know, not in favor of China for sure. Okay, so if you see here जब Trump आया था यहाँ पे, so Trump had put in a lot of tariff on China, because of which after 2018 China का जो exports to the US है वो काफ़ी गिर जाता है. But China is a very smart player. During 2018, Mexico did not have tariffs put on its head, especially on US exports. So what does China do is China moves its production and manufacturing units over to Mexico, and this transition takes place, and it takes almost like 2 years for that thing to happen. After which, if you see that when the goods were done in 2020, Mexico starts exporting those items to US. So kahin na kahin China was able to deflect the tariff that was put on it through its production by pushing its production into Mexico, and still was able to sell its goods into America. Okay, now Trump knows about it, and that is one of the reasons why he's saying that now I'm going to put tariff on Mexico, because putting tariff on Mexico means it's a indirect tariff on China, and any which ways वो चाइना को अलग से भी टैरिफ कर रहा है. So it's kind of a double whammy on China that it is going through. And third, Canada. So the reasons why he is putting tariffs on Canada is आज के डेट में the entire Canadian politics is managed by China. Okay, वहाँ के narratives, okay, वहाँ के elections, it's pretty much managed by China. And all the more, what has happened is that China has been able to, kind of build a lot of infrastructure in Canada, and because of the money that China has put in Canada, they're able to influence their country's decision, okay, and its bureaucracy as well. So that is one of the reasons that US feels that Canada is now becoming a pro-China country, and Canada being a neighbor, US doesn't want that. Hence, it is also putting in that kind of a tariff on Canada. In a way, you can say that by putting a tariff on Canada, it is indirectly hurting China also. Now, if you remember during the elections, the speeches, Trump said one thing, that I'm going to kind of eradicate income tax. Okay. Now, let's look at this data. Out of the $4.9 trillion collected in the US in 2024, that's the total money collected by the federal government. $2.7 trillion was income tax alone, which means 56% of all collections within the US by the government is taxes. Now, Trump has been saying that I'm going to not tax my people. On the other hand, I'm going to tax the entire world in terms of tariff, and I'm going to claw back that money. Now, let's say today if Trump takes a decision कि मैं income tax नहीं लूँगा अपने citizens से, तो वो $2.7 trillion लाएगा कहाँ से? Let's look at these numbers. So this is the 2024 US imports number, which has been categorized in two sections. One is total CMC, which is China, Mexico and Canada, and the second is the rest of the world. So what we have done is, like Trump has been saying, 25% tariff on Canada, 25% tariff on Mexico and 10% tariff on China, right? So all of these things put together, it is a $0.25 trillion of tariff on Canada, Mexico and China alone. And if on the rest of the world it applies a 10% tariff, it becomes a $0.168 trillion. Now both of them put together, it becomes a $0.42 trillion, which is actually 16% of the overall income tax collected. Now the bigger question कि चलो 16 to 17% का तो आंसर ट्रम्प के पास है यहाँ से, that he will be able to claw back. Now where would he get the rest of the money from, the rest of the 84%? Okay. Now because of that, he has signed other policies also, other orders also, which is going to help him get that money. Okay, now let's look at them. Now before we get into that, one thing is for sure that अब ये जो Trump है, ये इतना उत्पात कर क्यों रहा है? Okay, now we need to understand that. Now before we get into there, so let me put it this way. Trump is like a Chris Gayle who has entered a T20 match which would run for the next 4 years. Okay, and he knows कि मेरे को पहले बॉल से ही छक्का मारना और लंबे लंबे छक्के मारने हैं. What that is going to do is that उनका जो मेन बॉलर है, अगर मैं उनको हिट कर गया तो कहीं ना कहीं जो है, जो सामने वाली जो टीम है वो थोड़ी सी सहम जाएगी, बैकफुट पे चली जाएगी. तो दैट इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट ट्रम्प इज डूइंग. ओके, बाय हिटिंग दीज शॉट्स he is actually sending out a message to China and some rival countries that कि आप मेरे साथ मतलब you can't arm twist me. Okay, rather I'll do it the other way. I'm going to arm twist you back. Okay, and
Trump feels that, he wrote a book, The Art of the Deal. So Trump feels that he's a great deal maker. Okay. तो ये जो उसने जो ये बम फोड़े हैं टैरिफ वाले, that is going to help him negotiate a better deal with Canada and Mexico and also China. So that's why वो फ्रंट फुट पे आकर के पहले ही दिन उसने ये बम फोड़ दिया. Moving on. Now, he wants the Panama Canal. Now, this is the map of North and South America. Now, before the 1900s, this was an entire piece of land. Okay, there was no inlets जहाँ पे Atlantic और Pacific मिल सके. Okay. Now, what happens is back in the days before the 1900s, जब भी US के ईस्ट कोस्ट से वेस्ट कोस्ट तक कुछ भी जाना होता था शिप से, तो वो बिल्कुल साउथ अमेरिका घूम करके ऐसे करके वो जाती थी. Okay. Now, what US found out is that the thinnest land in this landmass is here at Panama, which was a 80-kilometer stretch. So now, what US says is to the to Panama is that we are going to build a canal here, जहाँ से मेरे ships जाएंगे, and we are going to build it up for you, and we are going to hand it over to you, and you are going to use it as a revenue generator for your country. Okay, and Panama agreed to that. Now what happens is that initially in the 1900s, the French started working on this canal, building it, but they failed, and then America kicked in, and eventually this canal was made and handed over to Panama Ports Authority. Okay. Now what happens is that in 1996, okay, the Panama Ports Authority, they wanted someone who can take care of their ports in terms of maintaining their ports. Now this is the map of Panama, and if you see here, the entry and exit ports are Cristobal and Balboa. The rest of the red dots are also ports, but the entry exit ports is Cristobal and Balboa. Now, like I said, in 1996 they invited certain vendors to take up a contract where they would maintain their ports. So back then it was Hutchinson and Wampau who took the contract for Cristobal and Balboa, saying that we are going to manage these ports for you. Okay. Now Hutchinson Wampau Port Holdings is a Hong Kong company which belongs to China. Okay. Now over a period of time, what has happened is that Hutchinson has been building infrastructure because वो required भी है when you're managing ports. Okay. And America is not liking it because tomorrow if China wants, they can close all entry and exit to this port, meaning American ships hai, they won't be able to pass through this area. Okay, and that will be a big loss to America. Why? Because 40% of the US trade happens through this canal. That's number one. And for the entire world, almost 6% of the trade happens through this canal itself. Out of that 6%, 4.5% to 5% is America alone. So it is almost like a $300 billion of cargo that goes through this canal. Okay. Now think about this. If China were to choke that, then वो अमेरिका के लिए बहुत बड़ी समस्या खड़ी हो जाएगी, क्योंकि 40% जो उसका धंधा रुक जाएगा. Okay. So definitely Trump feels that this is a threat. So that's why he wants to take back the Panama Canal. Moving on. Now, भाई साहब को ग्रीनलैंड भी चाहिए. वो बोल रहा है कनाडा को भी एक्वायर कर लेगा और उसको 51st स्टेट बना देगा. अब उसको गाजा भी चाहिए. Okay. Now, before we understand this, first we need to understand that why we will talk about basically an incident from the past that has happened, and we are going to take some lessons from it, and we are going to connect it back to why Trump wants Greenland, Canada and Gaza. Okay. Now this is a Ukraine-Russia map. If you see, when Russia wanted to invade Ukraine, so the best way of invading a country is when you attack its capital city, okay, which is Kyiv out here in this case. So Russia यहाँ से घुस सकता था. Okay, and here is Belarus, which is again a pro-Russia country, and NATO starts from here. Okay. तो रशिया मगर यहाँ से नहीं घुस करके इट एंटर्ड यूक्रेन फ्रॉम दिस साइड, एंड व्हाट इट क्लेम्ड इज दैट ये जो रीजन है ना जहाँ पे आज के डेट में रशिया ऑक्यूपाइड कर चुका है, रशिया क्लेम ये कर रहा है कि मैं अपने रशियन स्पीकिंग जो टेरिटरीज है मैं उसको ऑक्यूपाई कर रहा हूँ. But the reality is that yes, it is a Russian speaking territory, but the bigger reality is that this is Crimea, and Crimea is nothing but a pro-Russian state which is in favor of Russia. तो वो इस region को Putin manage कर सकता है through Crimea. Okay, that's one. Second, this region has nuclear power plants of Ukraine जो रशिया कब्जा कर चुका है. तीसरा, this is the Gulf area where you will get a lot of oil also. And chautha, which is the most important, this area is very high on minerals and metals, rare ones. Okay, so now you see that Russia went very strategically inside Ukraine और उसने अपने मतलब की चीज ही acquire कर ली है. Okay, now tomorrow if this war gets over, Putin is not going to give back this territory back to Ukraine for sure. ठीक है, तो इसलिए उसने कैटेगोरिकली उसी रीजन को हत्याया है जिसकी उसको जरूरत थी. ओके, नाउ लाइक यू सी दैट इफ रशिया कैन टेक ओवर पार्ट ऑफ यूक्रेन, दिस इज बेसिकली 20-25% ऑफ यूक्रेन. if Pakistan can take over part of Kashmir from India, if China can sit in Tibet, okay, and so अमेरिका तो अमेरिका है. ओके, वाई वुडेंट अमेरिका डू दिस? सो एज अ लेसन व्हाट अमेरिका इज ट्राइंग टू से हियर इज कि देखो भाई साहब, मैं इधर हूँ, यूएस इधर है. ओके, एंड दिस इज अ पार्ट ऑफ यूएस, दिस इज अलास्का. ओके, एंड दिस इज रशिया, एंड डाउन अंडर हियर इज चाइना. फेयर इनफ. नाउ व्हाट यूएस इज सेइंग इज, सो लेट्स से इफ आई वेर टू टेक ऑफ Canada, the entire North America, I'll be owning the entire North America. Okay, अब अगर मैं कनाडा को ओन कर लेता हूँ, then I would be able to very easily manage this Arctic Circle. Now, for it to have a complete authority here, it would want to take over this Greenland as well, which is managed by Denmark. तो मोटा मोटा वो ये सोच रहा है कि ये पूरा जो एरिया है इसको मैं कंट्रोल करूंगा if I take over Canada as well as Greenland. Okay, now अब वो चाहता क्यों है इस रीजन को? उसका रीजन ये है that one, Canada is becoming pro China like we talked about. तो एक बार वो कनाडा को अपना अगर एक स्टेट बना लेता है तो he will be able to kick out China. That's one. Second, ये जो ग्रीनलैंड है, it is Greenland and Arctic is not yet explored. Okay, and due to global temperatures are rising, यहाँ का जो ice है वो melt हो रहा है, and it is becoming easier for exploration purposes. So which means अगर आज आपको यहाँ पे एक exploration करना पड़े to dig oil, it is much more easier than what it was 10 years back. So that's exactly what Trump wants to do here. He wants to acquire this area and start his explorations both in the Arctic as well as in Greenland. Now, ये जो area है, यहाँ पे you will find a lot of Russian and Chinese ships already doing that kind of an explorations. Now, few years back ये जो काम था इस एरिया को मॉनिटर करने का, ये UK नेवी का था. ओके, बट द UK becoming weak day by day, तो कहीं ना कहीं UK नेवी couldn't do a good job, because of which रशिया और चाइना के शिप्स यहाँ पे अब आज के डेट में घुस चुके हैं. So what Trump is saying is, in a latest call to the Prime Minister of Denmark, what he's saying is that I want to buy it. So the Denmark Prime Minister said that Greenland is not for sale. So वो ये बोल रहा है कि या तो मेरे को बेच दो, नहीं तो I'll use military power and I'll take over. Okay, that's what he's saying. Now, whether he will be able to do that or not is a different story. But if I talk about a transaction, so let's say tomorrow if Trump were to say, यहाँ पे कुछ 55,000 लोग रहते हैं ग्रीनलैंड में, and the per capita income of people there are almost like a $4,000 a month. So let's say if Trump says that I'm going to give a $1 million to everyone to become a part of US, and on top of that you will enjoy the benefits of being a US citizen, okay, then I think the people of Greenland would not mind it as a bad choice, because वैसे भी ग्रीनलैंड कुछ खास कुछ एक्सपोर्ट करता है नहीं, वो पूरा का पूरा इंपोर्ट्स पे जीता है, ओके. सो now you would say 1 million a person to 55,000 to a population of 55,000 each is a big number. Not really, because that will be just a $55 billion, जहाँ की US का yearly aid है it's almost to up to $72 billion. मतलब पूरे दुनिया को $72 बिलियन जो देश बांट सकता है, वो 55 बिलियन देके एक एरिया नहीं खरीद सकता है जो उसका इंटरेस्ट का है, राइट. It would want to do that, okay. So long story short, if he takes over Greenland, basically he will have access to the oil and the rare earth metal. Also he will gain this Arctic control, and he would be able to identify new shipping routes and have a direct eye on Russia and cut out Russia and China from the Arctic, okay. Now we all know why he wants Canada. Again, oil and earth metals, gain Arctic control, get 100% control of North America, and cut out China because of its political influence. Now let's come to Gaza. Now basically here what he's saying is, ये जो strip है, Gaza strip, he's saying that मैं strip को ले लूँगा और यहाँ पे जो है मैं डेवलपमेंट करूँगा, ठीक है. Now I'll tell you what exactly his plan is. What Trump is going to do is, he's going to take over this land, develop it, okay, और वो इस जगह को एक परमानेंट एक मिलिट्री बेस बना देगा अमेरिका के लिए, okay. And as of now the biggest base that America has in the Middle East is in Qatar. तो वो क्या करेगा कि उस बेस को वहाँ से हटा करके it will put its base here, which means that Qatar will not have any defense against any neighboring countries, because Qatar doesn't have an army. So that's what exactly he's going to do, okay. And through here what America is going to do is, it's going to monitor the entire Middle East, especially Iran, which is threatening with nuclear power, because rumors are that Iran has either become a nuclear power or will become a nuclear power very soon, okay. तो यहाँ से बैठ करके वो ईरान को मॉनिटर कर सकता है, ठीक है. एंड द बिगेस्ट एडवांटेज दैट इजराइल हैज टू दिस इज, अगर अमेरिका आके बगल में बैठ गया तो बड़ा मुश्किल है फिर इजराइल को तंग करना, बिकॉज फिर यहाँ पे वो वाली बात हो जाएगी कि इजराइल को छूना मतलब डायरेक्टली अमेरिका के अमेरिका पे हाथ देना, तो वो थोड़ा सा इशू हो जाएगा. सो अदर कंट्रीज वुड नॉट वांट टू डू दैट, ओके. नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज कि अब ये जो 20 लाख लोग हैं गाजा में, ये कहाँ जाएंगे, राइट. दैट इज वन ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस दैट्स बीन आस्क्ड. नाउ this is basically the US aid to all the top few countries in the Middle East. So now what America is going to do is, America is saying that I give the highest aid to Jordan. Now if you see, this is Jordan basically, okay, and the second highest goes to Egypt. Now this is Egypt, and the third highest goes to Lebanon, and this is Lebanon. अब क्या होगा कि यूएस इन तीनों देशों को बोलेगा कि ये जो 20 लाख का पॉपुलेशन है इसको तुम अपने अंदर इम्बाइब कर लो, एंड नॉट ओनली वी विल कंटिन्यू विद आवर एड एफर्ट्स, एंड एट द सेम टाइम वी विल इंक्रीज दैट एज वेल. दैट इज समथिंग दैट एज अ ऑफर अमेरिका इज गोइंग टू गिव. बट इसमें एक प्रॉब्लम है. द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट टुडे इजराइल इज dreaming of a greater Israel. Now what does that mean? So first of all, let's understand why does Israel need a greater Israel. Now दोस्तों, if you see here, Israel बहुत छोटा है, okay. तो अभी तक तो उसकी जो लड़ाई है वो कुछ मिलिटेंट ग्रुप से है, बट वो लड़ाई अभी एक फुल फ्लेजेड वॉर में कन्वर्ट नहीं हुआ है वहाँ जहाँ पे ही इज फाइटिंग अ कंट्री टू अ कंट्री. But tomorrow, if there is a full-fledged war between Iran and Israel, okay, Israel will not stand a chance, because in a war the landmass that you have, it matters a lot. Okay, so क्योंकि Israel doesn't have a buffer zone. Okay, now if you see this map, what Israel is saying is, I need to have a buffer zone where it has created, it is talking about taking some part of Egypt, including the Suez Canal. It is talking about taking a good part of Jordan, actually the entire of Jordan, a good part of Saudi, Iraq, Syria and Turkey and Lebanon. Okay, तो वो ये बोल रहा है कि अगर मैं इतना बड़ा हो जाता हूँ, then I'll stand a good chance of kind of surviving in the Middle East. Now if now ये जो लोग गाजा में हैं, अब अगर इनको उठा करके इजिप्ट में डालते हैं, ठीक है, एंड जॉर्डन में डालते हैं और लेबनान में डालते हैं, then putting them in Lebanon or Jordan will not solve the issue, because eventually ये जो पैलेस्टीन वाला issue है of great it will come up when Israel will think about a greater Israel, because वो कलेश वापस से आ जाएगा. So if at all you have to move these people out of Gaza, then you'll have to think of moving them beyond these borders of greater Israel. Else ये जो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना चाह रहा है आज के डेट में नेतन्याहू, that problem would continue to stay. Okay, now दोस्तों, what is the message here? So now let's say Trump is able to take over Greenland, it is able to take over Canada and as well as Gaza. तो दोस्तों, जो मैसेज ट्रम्प यहाँ पे ये दे रहा है ना पूरी दुनिया को, कि अगर तुम्हारे पास बल है, if you have the military might, okay, you go and conquer whatever you want. Now that will also send a message to China, जहाँ पे चाइना जो है वो ताइवान घुस सकता है. इंडिया के लिए मैसेज ये है कि you take back your land, which is POK, and you broaden your chicken neck in Bangladesh, take a bit of Bangladesh and probably cut out Bangladesh into two parts, make a Hindu country out of Bangladesh for the Hindu population there. तो this is basically a message that Trump is trying to give out. अब जिस तरीके से पूरे वर्ल्ड की जो जियोपॉलिटिक्स बदल रही है, जिस तरीके से चेंजेस आ रहे हैं, I don't see that as a very far off distance thing happening, at least in India. Okay, moving on. Now, ease burden on oil and natural gas production, particularly in Alaska. So here what he is saying is that Biden stopped drilling in Alaska because Biden said that वहाँ की जो biodiversity है वो impact हो जाएगी. तो even Biden was right, but then what Trump is saying is that my need right now is money. Okay, my need right now is trade. Now अब मैं उन सब चीज़ों के लिए I would not stop my economy. So what he's saying is कि अलास्का को खोदो और तेल निकालो. Why? Because 20% of US trade is in oil, and if you see this, this is an US oil imports versus export. So US की एक philosophy रही है शुरू से that UL oil import ज़्यादा करती है, export कम करती है, because what it thinks is जब when the entire world would get dried up in oil, then they would start drilling. That has been the philosophy. But now over the past 4 or 5 years, what has happened is that the exports are climbing and the imports are actually dropping. So there would be a point जहाँ पर जो इनका import और export है, they will converge at a certain point and the exports will go up, and that's exactly what Trump wants कि यार मैं oil ज़्यादा export करूँ और import कम करूँ क्योंकि इससे मेरे पैसे बचते हैं. Okay. Next point, like he said, fuel drilling करो और revoke करो electric vehicle mandate. Now दोस्तों, when does a mandate work? A mandate works when you have surplus of goods. Okay, if you do not have goods in excess, then any mandate will not work here. Now what is happening here is that this is a data for a quarter for 2022 which talks about the US imports versus exports. So if you see out of 33,000 vehicles it exported, it imported almost like a 79,000 vehicles. What that means is that जो ratio है export versus import का, it is kind of 1:2.2, meaning एक vehicle अगर वो export करता है तो 2.2 vehicle import करता है. Now when the stats are like such, it doesn't make any sense that you put electric vehicles as a mandate. It doesn't work like that. So hence he's saying that ये mandate हटाओ, you buy the car of your choice and then you go ahead and run them on gas. I'm going to provide you with that. That is very as simple as that. And any which ways EVs are expensive as compared to gasoline cars, which is almost like $10,000 to $12,000 ज़्यादा महंगे पड़ते हैं. So he's saying that no funny business there, just save that money and you just drive the car of your choice. Now this is on immigration. So what he's saying is that he's reinstated his policy on prioritizing deportation of all undocumented individuals. So in this, what he has done is that he has already started sending off people back to Venezuela, Cuba, and Mexico, India for that matter, all those people who are undocumented. So 2 days back, there was a military aircraft from America which landed in Amritsar, which has brought back almost like 120 illegal immigrants back to India, and all of them were handcuffed, and they had a crime track record in the US. Okay, that has already happened. So वो ये कर रहा है because he doesn't want immigrants in his country anymore. Then he has deployed this US-Mexico border में emergency, which means that he has military lined up there who are willing to take actions if they find any घुसपैठिया trying to get inside. Then asylum seekers to remain in Mexico while waiting US hearing. So what he's saying here is कि अगर आप asylum seeker हो तो जब तक आपकी hearing complete नहीं होती है और कोर्ट से verdict नहीं आ जाता, you will stay in Mexico. And last, what he's saying is if you are an immigrant and born, if you're an illegal immigrant born in America, that necessarily doesn't make you an American citizen. Okay. Now, why does he think that this is a problem? Now this is the US census for 2023, which says that the total population was 335 million. Now out of that, 48 million are immigrants, meaning 1 out of every 7 person found in the US is an immigrant. Okay. Now out of this 47.9 million, 12.1 million entered America alone in 2023. Out of that 12 million, almost like a 1.2 million got into Canada, got to US through Canada with the help of Khalistanis, and this 10.9 million got into US through Mexico. So it is that bad. Now, so what has Trump done is, Trump ने ये CBP1 app है. So basically this is an app that is available on Play Store. So what you got to do is, if you want to enter the US as an immigrant and you are waiting at the borders, so you download this app, and then what you do is you fill in this, there are certain questions, Q&As, you fill in that and you book a time slot for yourself, and accordingly you get a time slot to be presented in front of the officials at the border, and then post a listening is done, they'll get you an attorney so that you can plea for asylum in the US. So he's saying कि जब मेरे को immigrant चाहिए नहीं तो मैं ये सेवा भी नहीं दूंगा. So he said that ये ऐप हटाओ, ना रहेगा बांस, ना बजेगी बांसुरी. Okay, now what are the disadvantages of illegal immigration in the US? Okay, now one, they take your jobs away because they are willing to work at a lower price, and that too in cash, so that there is no banking trail or a money trail in the account. Okay, and it works equally good for the other businesses also, because they also don't mind saving a few bucks on labor. So when it comes to immigrants, they become a choice, and now what that does to a local is they lose out of those opportunities. Second, they are very much prone to commit crimes. अब ये जो पॉपुलेशन है ये एक इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रेस में रहती है. नाउ बिकॉज ऑफ दैट व्हाट हैपेंस इज दे एंड अप डूइंग ड्रग क्राइम्स, shoplifting, burglary, etc., etc. Managing this population is a federal cost. Yeah, because कुछ भी होता है इनको, कोई एक्सीडेंट हो जाता है, कुछ भी हो जाता है, then there is a medical cost that needs to be undertaken by the federal government. तो it is a cost, okay, on एक बोझ है in your country. And last, they influence the electoral demographics and the voting outcomes of the nation. Okay. Now इस चीज़ को और अच्छे तरीके से समझते हैं. एक एग्जांपल है कनाडा, नेवाडा एंड हवाई. These are one of those few states which doesn't require a voter ID in case if you would want to vote. Now here is a list of states which has the highest population of foreign born population in the United States. Okay. California is topping the chart. You also have Nevada, you also have Hawaii. Okay, and remember these are the 3 states where you don't need a voter ID card. And this is the US presidential election for 2024, where it says that if you look at California here, so the Democrats won. Okay, if you look at Hawaii, the Democrats won. In fact, if you see that for most of the countries here, all the bordering states that you see here, they are largely won by the Democrats, because इन बॉर्डर से ही बहुत ज़्यादा इन्फिल्ट्रेशन होती है इमिग्रेंट्स की. ओके, एंड द डेमोक्रेट्स आर प्रो इमिग्रेंट्स. So basically what I'm trying to tell here is that maybe as a state you want a certain outcome on the election results, but because of the immigration population वो outcome कई बार वैसा नहीं हो पाता. Okay, because they have a very heavy influence on that. Now when he talks about the ending this immigrant birthright citizenship, basically that is not going to work, because any person who is born in the US is a citizen of the US. Now this is a part of its constitution, so I don't feel there is nothing that Trump can do about it. Now as I speak, there are already 25 states which has gone against Trump in the federal court of law, and Trump is not going to be able to withstand this, because he's going against the constitution here. Moving on. Designated drug cartels as foreign terrorists. Okay, ये थोड़ा interesting है, because we need to focus on the word terrorist here. So basically Trump क्या बोल रहा है, वो ये बोल रहा है कि आज के डेट में मेरे देश में सबसे ज़्यादा दिक्कत है फेंटेनिल की. फेंटेनिल एक ऐसा ड्रग है जिससे यूएस के पूरे वर्ल्ड में यूएस में सबसे ज़्यादा सिटीजन्स मरते हैं ड्यू टू ड्रग ओवरडोज ऑफ फेंटेनिल. Now, what is the source of this fentanyl? So fentanyl is basically a synthetic opioid which is sourced out of China, and it gets into US through 2 routes. One is Canada, and when it enters US through Canada, largely it is held by the Khalistanis, and then to Canada, US through Mexico from down under South America. Okay, तो इस तरीके से वो US एंटर करता है. नाउ अब इसमें दिक्कत ये है that because of this fentanyl, on an average 400 people die in the US every day, and there is a statistics that COVID में कुछ 20 लाख लोग मरे थे US में. out of fentanyl से already कुछ 12 लाख लोग already US में मर चुके हैं because of fentanyl. So this is a big problem for the government of the United States, and moreover ड्रग इकोनॉमी ये आपके ओवरऑल इकोनॉमी को बहुत इम्पैक्ट पहुंचाता है, बिकॉज व्हाट इट डज इज इट टेक्स अवे मनी फ्रॉम योर पॉकेट. इट्स एज सिंपल एज दैट. इट इज टेकिंग मनी फ्रॉम योर ओन कंट्री. ठीक है, सो दैट्स व्हाई ट्रम्प इज सो मच अगेंस्ट इट. नाउ लेट्स लुक एट द क्राइम रेट हियर. Now it says that out of every 3 crimes that happens in the US, one offender has a drug affiliation, and out of every 100 crimes of drugs, 44% people who are caught are Hispanics. Now, who are Hispanics? Hispanics are people from South America. Okay, so basically what these drug cartels do is, ये उधर पे मेक्सिको में बैठे बैठे ये यहाँ के यूएस के जो हिस्पैनिक सिटीजन्स हैं इनसे कांटेक्ट करते हैं, इनको इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं और फिर ड्रग बेचते हैं, और पकड़े जाने पे ये नेशनल्स ये यूएस सिटीजन्स पकड़े जाते हैं. सो कहीं ना कहीं इन कार्टल्स को लीस्ट इम्पैक्ट है. ओके, तो what Trump is saying is that this is terrorism for me. Okay, and you know, terrorism is a very heavy word in the US right after 9/11, because now people have a very very high intolerance for terrorists. So you know what happened to Osama bin Laden. अमेरिका ने एक पूरी देश खोद दी ओसामा बिन लादेन को पकड़ने के पीछे. So tomorrow don't be surprised if you hear any foreign soil operation from America in Mexico, where you hear that there were some special operations done and इतने लोग उन्होंने मार दिए. So Trump is going to do that. Okay, and that's why he's terming them as terrorists. Moving on. Rename Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. So guys, this is a coastline map of the Gulf of Mexico. So here is the Mexico border, US-Mexico border. This is again the coastline of Mexico, and this is the coastline of America. So definitely the coastline of America is longer than the coastline of Mexico. So what Trump is saying is, जब ये मेरा coastline है और मेरा coastline सबसे बड़ा है, then we might as well call it Gulf of America versus to a Gulf of Mexico. Now what I've heard currently is that this has already been kind of updated in Google Maps, so you may not any longer find Gulf of Mexico there. It is now showing up as Gulf of America. Okay, now you can call it as Trump ka nationalistic, egoistic character, why he's doing it, but by and large I don't find anything wrong in this. Okay, so he's saying exit WHO and Paris climate agreement, let TikTok operate for another 75 days. So दोस्तों, what is this what is this Paris climate agreement? So here what he's saying is that as per this agreement, you need to commit to certain things what this agreement talks about, जहाँ पे ये भी है that in whatever development you do, you need to ensure that your average temperature should not increase by 2 degrees, which means अगर आपका average temperature 36 का है तो वो 38 को क्रॉस नहीं करना चाहिए, else there would be natural calamities. Okay, now Trump ने अभी तक जो भी कुछ बोला है, उसने डेवलपमेंट की बात की है, उसने खुदाई की बात की है, वो अपने ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री को रीइन्वेंट करना चाहता है and all of that. So he won't be able to commit to this agreement. That's why he's walking out. That's number one. And any which ways, if you talk about the top 4 or 5 economies in the world, they are the most polluting countries in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. क्योंकि जहाँ पे भी development होगी, you will have those issues there. So there is nothing much that you can do about it. So this agreement definitely is not in line with the objectives that Trump has. Now WHO. Now this is a release from the White House where according to Trump, WHO may sound to you as World Health Organization, but for Trump it is Wuhan Health Organization. Why? Because what America expected from WHO during the epidemic in 2020, वो सपोर्ट उसको WHO से मिला नहीं, वो रेड फ्लैग्स मिले नहीं, ठीक है, वो ट्रिगर्स मिले नहीं, because of which there has been so many deaths in America. Okay, तो now what America is saying is कि भाई जब so when it comes to the money bit, okay, चाइना की पॉपुलेशन जो है वो 300% ज़्यादा है अमेरिका से. ओके, मगर चाइना का कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो 10% है, जहाँ की अमेरिका का कंट्रीब्यूशन जो है मॉनेटरी टर्म्स पे वो 90% है. ठीक है, तो ट्रम्प बोलता है ये तो बड़ा अनफेयर है कि तुम पैसे भी मेरे से ले रहे हो मगर तुम काम चाइना के लिए कर रहे हो क्योंकि तुम्हारा एक पॉलिटिकल एफिलिएशन है वहाँ से. So that's why he's saying that we are walking out of this particular agreement. Now, here are some brands, some social media platforms in front of you like YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, X, Instagram. Now, interestingly, all these social media platform are global platforms in today's world, and they originate from America. Okay, the only brand that doesn't originate from America is TikTok. So Trump wants Elon Musk to buy it, and for that they may need some time. So they are buying a 75-day grace period so that they can work out a deal with TikTok and buy it off. Okay, because at the end of the day, they would want to kind of control the social narrative, the narrative on the digital space, and accordingly move forward. Moving on. Okay. Suspend foreign assistance for 90 days pending review. Military funding to continue for Israel and Egypt. So basically here दोस्तों सबका फंडिंग जो एड है यूएस ने बंद कर दिया है except for Israel and Egypt. Now let's have a look here. These are the top 10 countries having the highest aid from the US. Okay, and the split is economic and military. Now if you see here, the only two countries which doesn't have a military aid is Ethiopia and Afghanistan. जो उनको aid मिलता है वो pure play, वो एक economic aid है. Now the thing here is that if you now compare Ethiopia and Afghanistan, Afghanistan is quite a bit unsettled when compared to Ethiopia. Okay, now why I'm bringing up this topic is we all know that the Belt and Road Initiative has not really worked out in China. Okay, sorry, in Pakistan. And आज के date में Afghanistan is getting very close to China is getting very close to Afghanistan because of this BRI, because few things. A, because Afghanistan knows that Afghanistan as a country has a higher integrity than Pakistan. So अगर Afghanistan कल commit करता है on this BRI thing, they will keep up to it. So that's one. Two, आज के डेट में अफगानिस्तान में बहुत untapped resources है जो कि कभी explore ही नहीं किए गए. So China wants to do that. Okay, that's why it is getting closer to Afghanistan. Three, China knows that जो अफगानिस्तान की जो economy थी 2021 and before, it used to run because of opium. Okay, now Taliban had written off opium cultivation because it considers that as haram. Now because of this opium not being cultivated in that large scale today, अफगानिस्तान की इकोनॉमी काफ़ी गिरी है एंड काफ़ी हद तक उसकी एक डिपेंडेंसी थी इस पर्टिकुलर एड पे. ओके, नाउ विद दिस एड नॉट कमिंग इन, इट्स अ स्ट्रेस फॉर अफगानिस्तान. अब if you go back in 2020, if you go back to the Doha Accords that was signed between Afghanistan and US, so one of the commitments that Afghanistan had was that it will not allow any foreign activity on its soil which is against the American interest, and badle mein there was a US obligation that they are going to pay a certain amount of aid for that, for the betterment of Afghanistan, for the development. तो अब पैसा भी नहीं आ रहा है और चाइना भी घुस रहा है, तो कहीं ना कहीं दोहा अकॉर्ड जो है हिलता हुआ दिख रहा है. एंड इफ अमेरिका डजंट टेक द नेसेसरी स्टेप्स टू काइंड ऑफ सपोर्ट अफगानिस्तान, देन द डे इज नॉट फार जब अफगानिस्तान जो है वो चाइना की टेंट में चला जाएगा. बिकॉज एज ऑफ टुडे चाइना इज रियली सपोर्टिंग अफगानिस्तान क्वाइट वेल in a way that even जो भी goods अफगानिस्तान से चाइना जाते हैं उस पे 0% import duty है. So that's how that is one of the ways how China is trying to support it. So now the US may not want a situation where China would again be in Afghanistan, and it would be kind of not a great situation for America largely. Moving on. Now, the bottom line. Now, why these orders basically? Okay, now are we saying that America isn't a great economy anymore, or um, uh, Trump has been saying make America great again, तो क्या America great रही नहीं क्या? So let's find out. Now this is US. This is the top 5 countries with the highest GDP, and here is a debt to GDP ratio. So debt to GDP ratio is your national debt divided by your overall GDP. So what you see is that Japan is struggling at a 264% and US is at a 129%. So largely how the economics works is, if your GDP ratio is lower than a 77%, then you have a better chance of paying off the debt and also at the same time encourage domestic economic growth. Okay, तो यहाँ पे US struggle करेगा, okay, because the debt is growing up. Now, as of today, the debt is already more than a $36 trillion, which was, the red ceiling for America, that it should not go beyond that. And as of today in 2025, it has already gone beyond this 36 trillion wala number. Now, the thing is that, so what happens if you have a lot of national debt? Now, one of the risk is that जो investors हैं वो आपको बड़े risk से देखते हैं, and they have the tendency to move away their investments to other, future markets like, let's say, Asia, Europe and all of that. Second, आपका internal जो cost है of operating the country, it becomes higher because now you'll have to put in interest rates on your loans and other stuff. So वो बढ़ जाता है. So largely now the government has to make policies which is in line to reduce those debts. Okay. Now, as a matter of fact, because of this number crossing 36 trillion, what has happened is that US as of today is paying a 3.3% interest rate on its 36 trillion ka loan, which overall comes to a 1.2 trillion, meaning at an hourly basis 136 million of interest is what is US paying every hour. Okay, in terms of rupees, it is 1200 crore rupees every hour that America is paying towards its 36 trillion dollars of debt. So it is really bad. Okay, now how does it now, so what does it boil down to? Let's talk about that. So now this is a chart which talks about the growths that the top 6 economies would achieve in the year 2028. So if you see that China has been pretty India has been pretty stable at a 6.1 6.2%, and now let's talk about US. Okay, because our focus is US here. US का जो growth है वो 2% बताया गया है. अब इसमें प्रॉब्लम ये है कि ये जो 2% है ये 2003 में बताया गया था जब यूएस का जो डेट था वो करीबन 25-26 ट्रिलियन डॉलर था. अब 2 साल में it has already crossed 36 trillion. So now this growth rate would not be possible until and unless US does something extraordinary well and it is able to pull back a lot of money and it can pay off its debt. Okay, so अब ये miracle ही होगा तभी जा करके ये उसको significantly कम कर सकता है. Else this development, ये जो growth rates है वो achieve नहीं कर सकता. Okay, now as a layman, how do you do that? Okay, अगर आपके सर पे कर्जा है, so how do you do that? Okay, आप cost कम कर देते हो अपना, आप खर्चे कम कर देते हो, आप अपनी इनकम बढ़ाते हो, आप एक से ज़्यादा नौकरी करते हो, आप अपने revenue streams बढ़ाते हो. And if you see here, that's exactly what Trump is doing here in terms of, trying to reduce cost, where he is saying that immigrants को वापस भेजो, गैस की गाड़ियाँ चलाओ, ऑयल है अपने पास उसको यूज़ करो. वो उसने डॉज भी इनिशिएट कर दिया, विच इज़ डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ गवर्नमेंट एफिशिएंसीज, जो कि आपके गवर्नमेंट फेडरल एजेंसीज को इवेलुएट करेगा और फिर आपको प्रपोज करेगा कि भैया कितने लोग रहने चाहिए, कितने लोग नहीं रहने चाहिए, रिक्वायर्ड नहीं है, so on and so forth. So that's what he's doing towards cost. Expenses में वो बोल रहा है ये WHO का खर्चा हटाओ, ठीक है, फिर ये फॉरेन एड को अभी पॉज कर दो, रिव्यू करेंगे, और खर्चे में वो ये बोल रहा है कि हम नए नए शिप रूट्स एक्सप्लोर करेंगे थ्रू द आर्टिक. Then he's saying increase your income, apply tariff and taxes. He's saying reduce your oil imports and increase your exports. In thinking of revenue and beyond, he's saying, leverage Greenland, leverage Canada, take over the Panama Canal, take over TikTok, and so on and so forth. Now, like we know that Trump is very barbola, okay, he has a big mouth, but at the same time, what we do understand this time is that this is not the same Trump that we saw in Trump 1.0. This time he's not only a very, very strong leader, but at the same time he has a good mix of being a politician and an economist for sure. Okay, maybe he may not be able to achieve all of what he's saying, but at least उसका एक hidden agenda है, वो जो भी चीजें बोल रहा है, and if he's able to get there, he would be able to kind of make things meet its end. Okay, so long story short, if he's able to even do 80% of what he's saying, he would be able to make America great again. Okay, questions? Okay, now in case if you have any questions, please drop it in the comment box, and I'm going to try and answer that for you. Thank you for staying with me for so long. There is an appeal video coming up. Please be there. Thank you.
वेलकम बैक व्यूअर्स, थैंक यू फॉर स्टेइंग अलोंग. आशा करता हूं कि मैं ट्रम्प के एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑर्डर्स को आपके सामने डिसाइफर करके समझाने में सफल रहा हूं. अगर आपको इस वीडियो से कुछ भी वैल्यू ऐड मिला है तो प्लीज़ 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 वीडियो को लाइक करें, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और हमें कमेंट करके बताएं. इस वीडियो की रीच को बढ़ाने के लिए ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें. And also you can be part of this journey by supporting us with your valuable contributions towards the QR code that you see just below on this video. तो मिलते हैं फिर अगले वीडियो पे. तब तक के लिए धन्यवाद, नमस्कार, जय हिंद.